Hi, and welcome to Coffee Talk Tuesday. I am Shalise Stevens, and I'm here with my co-host, who is just so funny today, Trip Mitchell.
Hi, everyone.
Just
and
today, though.
We've actually been talking about geopolitical stuff. This has been the smartest pre-show ever.
Ever.
Before then, you started talking about male members, but I don't want to get into it. Who are our guests this week?
Well, we are here with Nora and Satine. I'm going to say their last names, though, because I practiced this. Actually, I wrote it down. So, Nora Abudan.
Perfect.
Yes. And Satine Tashnizi.
Good.
Yeah, I did it.
That wasn't that bad. Abu
think-
Den and Tashnizi.
Tashnizi.
I blew it. Okay. And you're clearly from Utah.
Yes.
And you were pioneer girls. You came over in 1847 on the wagon train.
Exactly.
She brought all of her beauty bags with her, too.
Yeah, I would say. So normally when we have guests come in, they don't spend an hour in front of the mirror, but it turned out great.
Thank you.
I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about Shalise.
Oh.
Really, it's just amazing. So you guys are originally from?
I'm originally from Palestine. My parents are.
And my family's from Iran.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Iran, the smartest country in the... my first roommates in college were all Iranians, and they explained to me it's the smartest country in most of the world. The Persians are brilliant.
Persians really have a good job hyping themselves up. So.
They're like
we do well. We do well in the world.
Argentinians. When we had CNN Latino, everyone said the Argentinians are the cockiest people, and every Mid-Easterner I've met always says the Iranians are the... How did you end up in Utah?
My mom was going to continue her education in Utah, so we ended up here. She's really smart. Honestly, maybe we are the smartest people in the world.
Yeah, her mom actually almost has a PhD in physics, and one of your aunts is an astrophysicist. So it really is just rocket science for them. So
wow! And how did you end up here?
Pretty similar. My dad is actually from Palestine, and he migrated a couple of times and ended up in Jordan, but they didn't have very many opportunities for him, and he always wanted to be an engineer. So he applied for a student visa and ended up in Utah. So the rest is history.
Okay, I'm not going to get political for your grandmother, but one of the great things that America has is the best education system in the world, and that we can take super talented people from around the world and bring them to America. They become this, again, screw it. We need to have all the smartest people in the world know they come here and study and then live here, because people like your parents create jobs, create a great standard of living, and make Utah and the United States better.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm done being political. But
well, that's not really political. I mean, that's just kind of like...
Shalise, you couldn't be more wrong. The orange-haired a-hole... wants to shut down all immigration to the first thing he did was the Muslim ban when he came in. So it is political to a point, and essentially what old idiot does is try to placate his followers by saying that anyone comes in from foreign countries is trying to take your job away and create a lot of strife and tension. So now I'm done. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, well, I'm actually really excited to have you two on because Ahmad, remember Ahmad? He was on our show in March.
Wonderful guy.
And yes, and he was talking about the Emerald Project. And these are the lovely ladies who are, what are your positions? What do you do? Tell us about that for the people who didn't see the show that don't know.
Yeah, it was actually a really good segue with the Muslim ban, because that's actually what inspired the birth of Emerald Project. It happened by accident. Mm-hmm. So after the Muslim ban, we were devastated, and it directly impacted Satine's family because she's Iranian. And I just remember she was just crying at work and saying, like, why am I not welcomed in my own country? You know, like, this is my home.
We rehearsed all this, by the way. I don't have these political... I just shoot off my opinion, and this is the first time I've ever been right. So.
Yeah, so I'll let her explain her position more, but basically we were just 3 girls. There's a third co-founder, Faiza Javed, and we were sitting in my apartment, and we were like, let's actually make a change instead of just talking about it. It was impacting us enough, it was hurting us enough, it was hurting our loved ones and our colleagues, that we said, let's just put on a 3-part series and have a dialogue, not pointing the finger, but have Muslims and non-Muslims come together and have a real conversation. Mm-hmm. So that's Emerald awesome. Was born, and you can talk a little bit more about it.
We weren't planning on starting a nonprofit organization. We just wanted to provide a space where people could have a conversation and not feel like they couldn't ask questions, right? We were getting a lot of questions from the people that we knew, but they were like tripping over themselves, apologizing. Like, I don't want to be racist, but I just want to know, like, you know, is Islam, like, is there terrorism in that? We just want to know, right? And so we wanted to make it normal to talk about things rather than just keeping quiet into ourselves. And so it wasn't until we got like invited by the FBI and then the UTA, and then we're like, okay, I think it's time we build an organization.
Wow.
Yeah, just some advice. If you've got a nonprofit 501c3, get your paperwork done before you talk to the FBI.
They were, so that's funny that you say that. So our families were all like investigated by the FBI after 9/11 happened. And so when we went there, when they invited us, we were like, this is shady. Like, I was like, what do you, like, just open our file. Like, I don't know what you need to know.
Yeah.
Right? So, but we went there and they were so kind and welcoming and they wanted to understand. And it took a lot of like vulnerability for like, I think law enforcement to, you know, with that level of history to be able to open up that way. But
that's really
introduce
actually
ourselves?
awesome. Yeah, go ahead.
So my name is Satine Tashnizi and I'm the executive director of Emerald Project.
Yeah, and my name is Nora Abudan, and I'm the chief operating officer of Emerald Project.
And we founded the organization together.
Do you guys raise money?
We try.
How's that going?
We try.
It's a little bit difficult at times just because we're a nonprofit and we solely rely on like people who donate or collaborations that we have with different people. Like we did an exhibit with the Utah Museum of Fine Arts up at the University of Utah, and they were incredible to us. Like they provided stipends for speaking at events, and they provided a stipend for the exhibit. You know, of course, we just poured that right back into the organization for our needs. But yeah, we've really just been going with the community donations.
You know what's
incredible.
funny is this place is good luck. We have one of our hosts, Mindy Vincent, who is amazing, and she has an organization called Utah Harm Reduction Coalition. And through this place, she, as a joke, got a penile mask. Literally.
Wow.
As a joke when the whole pandemic started. So it was a mask with, we're a mature show, penises. And she met one of our other hosts who ended up sewing them for her, John the Bear Apsey, and her foundation made $150,000 profit selling penis masks
Wow.
around the country. New York Post did an article. So she met through this place, and that ended up being her funding for a year for the Utah Harm Reduction Coalition. So maybe you guys will have the same luck coming into our studio.
Well,
Yeah,
as an
hopefully a
Islamic
different route,
organization,
Yeah,
I don't think we should be benefiting from that type of
no,
income,
But also, I mean, I run a nonprofit too, and I just pulled off a fundraising event during a pandemic, which was pretty
that's
epic.
awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, and so basically what Shalise did, and this was a great idea, is she auctioned off dates with her.
Oh,
And so
nice.
She
We
has
made
got,
so much money.
yeah, and you know, these dates are 20 minutes at a time. I would have thought people would want longer dates, but that was really great. How much money did you raise?
$5,000.
That's
Wow,
incredible.
that's awesome.
Wow,
It wasn't-
congratulations.
It wasn't actually the dating thing. It was, we did a motorcycle event, a motorcycle rally.
I
And it
love
was
that.
great.
And it was
so
really
cool.
awesome.
And people are giving. So what I found is that the LDS Church is remarkably progressive at learning more about other religions. Have you gone to the church and tried to get a grant or do something like that?
Well, that's a really good question. I think our focus and we're a team of like 10 now, so we've grown like quite a bit in the last few years. Our priority has been like more so programming and building relationships, and so we haven't directly contacted like the LDS Church, but the LDS Church has been a really positive force for the Muslim community in Utah. Recently, when they were trying to build a mosque, I think it was down in Sandy,
Oh, I remember about
the
that.
church donated like $10,000 to that mosque.
That's why I brought it up, because they seem
Yeah.
remarkably progressive.
Well, they also they understand what it means to be persecuted for their religion. And I think a lot of them, especially early on around the time of the travel ban and when we were first launching our programming, many members of the LDS Church attended our events and just wanted to be supportive and said, what can we do to help you? We condemn this. We don't think this is right. And the other piece of it is a lot of the conversations we were having were very relevant to people who were LDS. We talk a lot about separating culture from our religion and our faith. And they say, you know, when we come to your events, we feel like you're talking about us.
Why does Islam have a bad name?
That is multi-layered.
Can I
Yes.
answer?
Yeah, we've
Stab
got.
at it?
That's a type of question you would ask on a morning radio show when you've got 35 seconds to the next commercial for Jiffy's Pop. But
That's a really good question. I think if I'm going to break it down into some bullet points, one is lack of knowledge about the religion by Muslims and by non-Muslims, right? So there's a lot of Muslims who don't have proper knowledge of their own religion, and so when misconceptions come up, it's really challenging to debunk those when you don't have a base to go back to, right? The second piece is a little bit more complicated. I think where Islam is regionally in the world impacts like the geopolitical interests of different countries who happen to be in more power than others. I mean, the biggest victims of terrorism are Muslims. More Muslims die at the hands of terrorist organizations than they do probably of other causes, let alone like non-Muslims dying at the hands of terrorist organizations. So I think ultimately Islam has a bad name because just like the KKK used Christianity to legitimize its cause, many movements in different parts of the world have used Islam to legitimize their cause. Their political grievances might be legitimate, but...
if you could eliminate Sunni-Shia strife, would that solve most of the problems?
No, I don't think so. Sunni and Shia have far more in common than they do apart. The Sunni-Shia, problem is very politically manufactured. There are some differences,
They seem like a subtle, from a religious standpoint, a very subtle difference.
From a religious standpoint, there are subtle differences. The core of their religion, the fundamentals are the same across. They're both part of Islam, but the problems and the conflict you see is very much man-made and political, and so
the Sunni states are typically a little bit more pro-Western, correct?
That's kind of a blanket statement. I wouldn't say.
Well,
the
you
Sunni
let me.
states,
I mean, I'm not going to get into nuanced public policy.
I don't think there's a relationship between Sunni Islam and countries that are pro-Western. I think there's a relationship between countries who made the decision to be allied with the West over political agreements more so than Sunni Islam, more so than religious reasons.
So anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm all of a sudden I've got this becoming a very intellectual show.
Okay, that's
our viewers.
These are my favorite topics. But we don't really go there too much with Emerald, but I'm always ready to go there.
Well, but I mean, one of the reasons why I do this show is because we want to have people in the community that are making a difference and open up that dialogue and open up that conversation. So I'm really proud of you for making it an intellectual show today.
Well, we had to do one. Next week, we've got a guy who can do farting in his mouth. And this guy, it's a 501c3, and he's really very smart.
And you're full of farts in your mouth.
Yeah.
And on that note, we're going to take a short break. And we'll be right back.
In summer 2004, as a 4-year-old Caleb's body emerged from an overcrowded water park's pool in Utah, every mother's worst nightmare became reality for Shalise Stevens. Would healing ever begin? Without an answer, she experienced truths about deep loss and grief's throttle. By age 40, she awakened to joy and motherhood. Finding 40, available on Amazon and wherever digital copies are sold.
Welcome back to Coffee Talk Tuesday. My name is Shalise. I'm here with Trip, Nora, and Satine. Thank you, our beautiful guests today. And we're having an awesome conversation, and I love this. I'm learning a lot because I don't know a whole lot about it, so I really appreciate it.
Well, the big challenge is that Islam has gotten a horrible rep since back in the 1990s when the original bombing at the Trade Center, and then 2001. Mm-hmm. But the challenges have been because United States has been allied against Israel, so that made us the enemy of most of the Mideast. But because the Mideast controls most of the world's supply of oil, geopolitical things have happened that caused a lot of conflagration. And the United States in your home country handled ourselves horribly in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So when the Iranian Revolution happened, we were thrown out. And we've been at conflict ever since.
Yes.
So from Palestinian standpoint, you come from a background of people who have really been treated poorly for the last 2,000 years. And is that tough for you to move to a new country and to adjust to that? Does that affect how you look at things?
No, actually. I think that us moving to this country and my dad making the decision to stay here even after he got his degree is beautiful, because America has given me a chance to be able to speak up. You know, if I was still in my home country, I wouldn't have the voice that I have in this land. You know, there's even other countries, if you speak up against the government, you know, your head is gone. So, you know, whether I don't agree with political policies or who's in charge, or whatever the case may be, I am able to be an advocate for my religion, for my people here, and help give back in a much better position. It's funny because I always use this metaphor. When you're in a plane and they say, if we're gonna, you know, start nose diving into the ground, those oxygen masks are gonna deploy. You know, put on the oxygen mask for yourself first before you help someone else. And I really feel America has given me and Satine and our families the space to really stand on our feet and help debunk those misconceptions and maybe create policies in the future that will make it easier for me to finally go home.
Do you feel good that we have Muslims reps in most forms of government?
I love it because I feel like what Satine said earlier too is just like, people don't know. If you don't know a Muslim, if you don't know what we're about, if you don't know what Ramadan is, if you don't know the essence of why we're doing things, you know, I might have questions and be scared too. You know, a lot of times we fear the unknown. But even if you talk to someone, maybe you don't necessarily agree with everything in their faith. Maybe you keep your faith as a Christian or a Mormon or whatever you are, but you're like, I'm not afraid of you anymore. I understand you, and I'm okay living side by side with you. And I think to have people like that in government at the level where they make those policies, at those levels where those things directly impact us, like Satine can't send any kind of care packages back home. You know, there's beautiful rug galleries. There's beautiful rug galleries from Iran, and, you know, they're going out of business, and her grandmother wasn't able to see her own daughter get married. Like, these are real implications. So I have a voice, and we're trying to do it on the nonprofit level, but I think it's amazing that we have people on the political level, too. We need everyone's help. Yeah,
I love that. So I have a question going back to what you said about 9/11 and how your families were investigated. Like, how did that, like, impact your life? Like, what was it like on your side of the story?
Right. Well, I remember, like, the 9/11 investigation story is probably one of the more transformative moments. Like, probably not at the time, but in the overarching, like, arc of, like, my life, it probably shaped me a lot more than I realized at the time. I mean, I was around, like, 8 or 9. But when the way my parents explained to me what was going to happen and what was happening, I think was really wise. They told me, you know, there are going to be 2 FBI agents. They're going to come ask us questions. But my mom told me, people are really scared right now. And I know you're going to see things on TV and you're going to hear things at school that might be kind of hurtful and it might make you feel a certain kind of way, but don't ever dislike America. This country is incredibly generous. This country took care of us. And she said, always take care of America because it took care of us.
Oh, that's so pretty.
And so,
I love that.
And those, I mean, the FBI agents who came were really kind to us. They were apologetic from the moment that they came in, and they asked a lot of questions. How often do you go to, how often do you call Iran? What do you talk about? What is this? Why are you, tell us about your relationships and everything. But at the end, they said, we're sorry. People are really scared right now, and you guys are model immigrants that the rest of the country should follow.
Ironically, it was not Iranians in any way, shape, or form.
I know.
Zero to do with 9/11.
Exactly.
In fact, I think Iran was, like, fined. They had to pay, and Iran and the people who hijacked the airplanes are, like, not on good terms, so it was kind of awkward. So it is kind of, I mean, that just is a testament to how little we understand the Middle East, and more importantly, how little we understand what the true enemy is. And to be honest, it's more than just 19 hijackers. You have to
It's an ideology.
It's an ideology, and I think it's worth America's time to uncover and understand what Islam truly is, because a lot of people have died, both Americans and people around the world.
Our own people have suffered a lot.
Muslims
and so many innocent
oh,
people.
Yeah, they're the ones that take the brunt of it. Innocent men, women, and children. Yes,
and it's a shame.
Yeah.
So, from a Palestinian perspective, was your family here during 9/11, or that?
Yeah, they were here. So I was actually born in Logan, Utah, and my dad has been here in this country for over 30 years. And my mom came when they got married, so she's been here for over 28 years. But yeah, so we were here for a while when 9/11 hit, and I was about the same age. I was in 3rd grade, so maybe like 9 or 10 years old. And I didn't really understand what was going on. I remember my dad was on a business trip. I believe he was in Maryland, and then my mom was just freaking out, saying, I don't know when he's going to come home. I don't know what's going to happen.
Because flights stopped right then. That day.
Exactly, yeah. And my dad is Middle Eastern, and he looks Middle Eastern, and he needs to travel back home. What's going to happen to him? So it's just interesting when the finger is pointed back at you, because when 9/11 happened, our home was attacked.
That was country too. Those
yeah,
are our Twin Towers.
Yeah, so it was just very interesting where it's like, so what are you up to? So it was a very interesting experience, but I love something that we actually talked about together, and Satine has this like quote, you can like correct me on it, but she said something to the effect of like, the FBI hosted us for a conversation, but this time they didn't want to know what we were up to, but they wanted to know like how we could help. So that's something beautiful.
Yeah,
and
that really is.
It was that whole FBI experience, I think, was, I don't want to say healing, because I don't think I was traumatized, but it was really full circle. I think after the travel ban and the Muslim ban, like right now at this current state, every identity I have is banned. I'm banned for being an American in Europe. I'm banned for being an Iranian here, and we're banned for being Muslim.
Yeah.
Right? So like there's a lot of contention there. But I mean, when I told you my mom told me to take care of America, I mean, this is us.
This is our way.
Repeat exactly what your mom said again. That's amazing.
She said, no matter what they say to you and what you hear, don't ever hate America, because America is a generous country, and it took care of us. Take care of America the way America took care of us.
So, interestingly enough, what's happened in the Mideast is being duplicated here now, where we're letting some fringe people speak for all Americans, some wackadoodles that we have on the right. And in the Mideast, a very fringe, small, infinitesimally small group of people are affecting how the rest of the world looks at the Mideast. And that's really unfortunate.
And at Islam, right? So I think that's true. Like, you know, when other people talk to us that are abroad about America and they say things about Trump, well, Trump doesn't represent the whole United States. I mean, nothing truly represents the whole thing, right, of anything. So I think the skill set and the toolbox is what's important to build right now. I think we don't have the tools to seek the bigger picture and understand the full context of anything, right? And I think we're humans. You know, we like, the world is really big, America's really big. This is a huge country with lots of people that are very different, and it's okay that we disagree. It's okay that people, you know, we don't have to all be the same, but we do need to know how to talk to each other. We do need to
respect each other.
We do need to know how to be comfortable being different. I think something that America kind of pioneered is, I think this is one of the only countries, and the first one, that had to have a lot of very different people live inside of it at one time. And we've seen a lot of conflict come out of that, but there's a message that was promoted of like, you know, we're all the same, diversity is important, inclusion matters, but we were almost like told, you know, just accept your neighbor. But I think we've outgrown that, which is kind of a sign of progress. Like, the fact that we are offering a nuanced context to these conversations means America, for all the drama you see and all the conflict and all of the wackadoodle, as you say, that you do see, is moving in a positive direction.
By the way, that's the first time this show, the term nuanced context has been used on this show, or ever with me. Thank you. I'm
That's what we try. I mean, honestly, that's the whole point of Emerald Project. We pride ourselves on offering nuance to the conversation. It is not, a lot of movements try to normalize Muslims, which is so important when all of the media, all it reflects is Muslims, you know, looking like terrorists, right? That's, normalization is important, but what's been missing for so long that Emerald Project is committed to offering is nuance and context.
And this is so minor, and I'm sorry for throwing this out there, but I felt so bad. On 9/11, we were over in Maui shooting a scuba show. Wow. And we were the first flight coming back on the subsequent Sunday. We flew back to LA and then on to Vegas. And there was a Muslim family on the plane, and I felt so bad. It was mother and father and 2 kids, and the amount of scorn and it and the searching and what they went through and they got off the flight in LA and didn't go on to Vegas with the rest of our crew, but that to me was so horrible. And the situation that Muslims go through in this country, and hopefully we will, through hard work, people like yourselves and thousands of great groups, and I grew up in Michigan, which is the largest outside Detroit in
Dearborn, Michigan.
Yeah.
Lots of Muslims there.
Right.
Yeah.
Tons, and what they went through. And there was a famous story about a Boy Scout leader who had binoculars up by the Mackinac Bridge, and he was arrested. You know, he was trying to help his troop out. So we've gone through a lot. Now,
Right.
Well, and I think you're right though. With like sometimes the pendulum needs to swing all the way on the other side to start opening up those conversations to bring it back down. And I really think that's a really great thing to think about. And
what kind of help could people who are watching this show do? What do you guys need?
I appreciate that question a lot. I think
That's why you gave it to me.
For the record, I gave no question. I'm just kidding. I think what would be really helpful is one, be open. If you see a Muslim, think about, maybe accept that maybe you don't, for however progressive or open you might be, maybe you don't understand the full story, and be willing to hear something different, and more importantly, connect with other Muslims. I think on an organizational level, follow us obviously on Instagram and our page. We do a lot of projects locally in Salt Lake Valley to help Salt Lake Valley be a better home to Muslims and help Muslims practice Islam. Something we're working right now is working with businesses to commit to allowing their Muslim employees time to pray. The 5 daily prayers are obligatory in our faith, and so as a business to be able to offer that's something that anyone watching could maybe turn to their employer and say, what are we doing in our workplace to help Muslims feel more comfortable? We know people who are hijabis, but they take it off because they don't feel comfortable, and so talking to a Muslim and saying, look, and I've had so many amazing people around me say, hey, do you need to pray in my office? Do you feel comfortable? Are you not wearing hijab because you don't want to? Or because you feel like you can't? Or during Ramadan when Muslims fast, should we not eat around you? I mean, obviously every Muslim will say, no, it's okay, you can eat around me, I'm fine. But those type of proactive offering to your Muslim neighbors, I think is a huge, huge thing.
Yeah, I echo what Satine says, and even just having a basic conversation, like during Ramadan, my bosses have been amazing. They're like, look, we know your productivity is not going to be the same because you don't eat or drink anything for several hours, and because we fast from dawn till dusk. So they were like, okay, what do you need from us? Do we need to shorten your hours? What do we need to do to best accommodate you? And even just that, like on a team level, made me feel so accepted and so accommodated that I'm not being held to the same standard as everyone who has food in their belly,
That's where we are with Shalise with drinks. When her probation officer is coming by and she can't drink on that show.
Yeah, they're looking out for me.
That's hilarious.
Actually, if you... And all joking, you came in hungover, and we did offer you a shot.
You
so
did
this
take
is
care of
actually
me.
true. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
you were making a beautiful point, and I had to interrupt it
No,
with a
but
joke.
it's the accommodation, right? Yeah, and also, if you can financially give, we do have a Venmo, and even like $1, $5, whatever it is, it can really progress the organization, and you can obviously see where all of our money is going. So.
Yeah, we spend all of our money on programming. We help Muslim youth help navigate their identity. It's hard to be a Muslim American, both to practice your faith but to understand who you are. Right?
Yeah.
That's great.
We put a lot of care and thought into the work we do, and we're very proud. And I think if anybody wants to help us, we're always
all right.
excited.
And we will put all of that information up on the bottom of our screen. And our time is up. And
a very
you log
nuanced
into
show
work.
this week.
Right? I'm so proud you have a new word now.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about it.
All right, ladies, thank you so much. I loved this conversation, love having you. I'm so glad that we know each other, and we will continue this conversation.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Yeah,
All
thank
right,
you for
you're
having
welcome.
us.
All right. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week.